everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits and happy 2020. Today we are going to do a highly requested dyeing experiment. We are going to take some Easter egg dye tablets, crush them up, and then sprinkle it onto yarn to see whether we get speckles. I've been a little hesitant to try this technique, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a moment. But first, I want to thank today's sponsor, Dana, for sponsoring today's video. And if you would like to learn more about how you can sponsor an episode of Dyepot Weekly, get some yarn and shout outs in the video, you can find a link to the ChemKnits Creations Etsy shop listing in the video description and iCard. So thank you so much, Dana, for sponsoring today's video. So why have I been hesitant to crush up these dye tablets? For me, the best part about the Easter egg dye tablets is that you have a compact, solid, dissolving tablet of dye. When you put it in the yarn, it will spread out slowly and you can get large patches of color that stay in a reasonable location. So they won't necessarily spread throughout the whole yarn. But you can use these tablets to, say, put inside a yarn cake, and there's a lot of different things you can do to play with them. So in that sense, crushing them up sort of makes me a little sad. The other thing is that these dye tablets are basic. They contain sodium bicarbonate. So as they dissolve, the area around the tablet will have the pH increase, which means that the dye will bind slower and it can spread a little more. I normally counteract this by adding a lot of vinegar into the system at the beginning, but if you really want speckles, you want that dye to strike quickly and you don't want it to spread. So do I think we might get some smaller patches of color with the crushed up dye tablets? Absolutely. I think we'll get some really nice, awesome, beautiful yarn. But is it going to give us speckles? I don't think so. But you never know, and I could absolutely be wrong. I think the tablets I'm using today are a different brand, so they might also contain a little bit of citric acid. But if you go back to my very first Easter egg dye tablet video, you'll see the colors did spread until I added vinegar. So it's not a lot of citric acid, but this is sort of typical for dye tablets. Here are some of the tablets that we are going to use today. I believe that these are the ones that had some citric acid in them, but I don't know for 100% certainty, but I think that I separated these into vials around the same time I first started playing with Easter egg dye tablets a long time ago. In this baggie, I think what I've got are 3 purple, 1 blue, 1 green, and 1 red for our starting round. I picked this because we should have a combination of red number 3, which strikes fast, blue number 1, which will spread more, and then maybe some red number 40 in the red, I'm not sure. Greens tend to spread a lot, and so I'm avoiding yellow because right now I know it tends to get like consumed by the other colors, but there should be some contrast in here. And yeah, we should maybe see something right away. And I am going to go step on this bag off camera to try to crush them. I tried stepping on them to crush them and that didn't really work, so what I'm going to do is I'm just sort of able to get them to crumble a bit into, well, maybe at least the purple ones, but I'm just trying to crumble them up here in the bag a bit, just by breaking them up. And I'm going to get them, I don't want to get it into totally fine powder, even though they're, I don't want to get it into totally a fine powder, even though there will be some powder, but I am going to try to get into small pieces if I can. Alright, here we've got our powder. There's some combo color, and then there's some of the pigments each separately. So I think I'll try to start with those, and then we'll work our way more to the powder as we see what happens. In this 4-inch deep catering steam pan, I've placed 2 cups of water and 2 cups of white vinegar. I'm not playing around. If we are going to see speckling, I want to give this as much of a chance of succeeding as possible. The yarn base that we are using today is Knit Picks Swish DK. This yarn is 100% superwash merino, and I have used Easter egg dye tablets on it before to create some really stunning colorways. But since it's superwash, that also gives us a better chance of this working because dyes will strike a bit faster. And I'm using 2 skeins for 200 grams of yarn total. I wanted low immersion, but this still feels a little low. So I'm going to add another 2 cups of water, and we're going to turn on the heat to get things at just about a simmer. We want it to be warm because, again, we're not wanting things to spread. We're hoping they strike fast. So I'll come back once we are bubbling a bit. I did pre-soak the yarn for a while before putting it here in the pan, maybe about 2 hours or so. And I'm now going to reduce the heat to low. If you'd like to learn more about the Swish DK yarn base or the pans or any of the other tools and materials that I use in these videos, you can find affiliate links in the video description. I transferred all of our little speckles into just this cup, and I want my fingers to be as dry as possible while doing this. Goodness, I don't know why I'm so nervous. Maybe, well, I did grab some of the finer powder right now just because I'm curious. Maybe I should have mixed this with some citric acid powder. Whoa, that is really cool looking, and I'm gonna have to zoom you in to show you. So this was very red looking, very, very red looking in the powder. But when I speckle it on, we see pops. I mean, I see the green, the red, sort of like a purple and blue. I see all of those colors here present. I'm now changing my mind. It's possible that this fine powder might work. Depends. I mean, actually, but you're starting to see like that green blip, they're starting to spread a bit. But we could end up with some speckles. Maybe. The issue is that colors strike really slow, and I'm gonna have to resist going and getting the spoon to sort of like help make sure things are dissolved, at least for a while. I think for more comparison's sake, let's go over to some of these larger chunks, which I am placing down. Not that I'm trying to go for like regular coloration or anything, but I do want these two skeins to be related. So like if I have a big blue chunk on one, I want to try to put a big blue chunk on the other. But Dana, you might want to alternate skeins when you finally go to knit or something with this. And I'm coming in with a few smaller ones right now, but I'm going to go slow with this because I want to see how things spread and sort of what happens, because frequently I end up touching the yarn. And why do I end up touching the yarn when I do this? Well, because the little tablets are very much on the surface and I sort of want to help them get down. But maybe we will get tinier patches of color if we just leave it alone. Goodness, I still have a lot in here. I think I'm going to come in just a little more randomly. I mean, there's some small bits in there, but I'm trying to get some of those like chunkier sections on. I still think it's a little, even if this is working well, I do think it's a little bit of a shame to sort of grind up these tablets, given that they are so good for doing like space dyeing. But right now I'm feeling optimistic. We will definitely go in heavier with the more powder, but I want to save some for like more the other side. Man, and I mean, it's only been a couple minutes. So what I'm going to do is we're going to speed things up and see what happens.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I stopped filming this time lapse after 20 minutes because things weren't spreading as much as I thought. There are some teal patches that are starting to pop up because some of the colors are probably spreading down and beneath the yarn. But the other thing, all of these dyes that I've put on, these thicker chunks, are very much still on the surface. So in here, there is still sort of clumped color. It hasn't had a chance to really sink in to the yarn. Now, do I think we've got some little speckles in there? Yes. But we are going to need to do something to try to spread this out at some point because, well, we don't want it to crust on the surface. Okay, I really, really don't want to do this, but I need to. I need to get, like, the colors just in contact with the water. I'm trying to be, like, gentle, and I'm trying to not, like, help them spread, per se. But I want to give it a chance to dissolve so that color, like, can stick to the yarn. So there's no question that we're seeing speckles. None at all. And trying to just finish up these bigger chunks. Yeah, because I do think I'm going to want to flip the yarn at some point to add color to the other side. So those were the bigger chunks. Let's come over here to some of these speckles and touch. Okay, those speckles seem set. I think because they were able to dissolve pretty quickly. Oh, I am a little off camera, but I found like a larger chunk. But hey, I'd call this a win. I wonder how deep. Yeah, the color penetration is not very deep. Awesome. Well, I stand corrected. But while those speckles have set, these larger chunks definitely still have some color in them. They have some dissolving to do still. So I think, oh, and see, like I found another one. I think what I want to do is really press down and make sure that these are all down. See, this kind of thing is sort of what I was expecting a bit more of. But hey, I think that what's happening is fun and I am excited. Okay, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna take more of this lighter stuff and just sort of add some of this like fun powderness to it. And yes, I'm going heavier. That's sort of what I like to do. But hey, we did get speckles. I was wrong. I think I was just expecting like even these little powder. I guess I have technically seen speckles like from my 5 million views live stream. I had seen some speckles on like that yarn there, but I don't know. Okay, I think I'm gonna call that there, and then when we flip the yarn, then we can use the rest of this. But the one thing I will say is that it has been almost half an hour since I first put dye on here, and you know, this has not all absorbed yet, so this is a much slower process than even using some of the other more powdered food coloring type items that I've come into contact with. But you know, these tablets are fun and it's another way to use them, so I'm intrigued. So anyway, I'm gonna wait another 15 minutes. Let some of this new stuff set. I think I mostly added on that fine powder, but I'm gonna try to let that set, let some of these colors finish absorbing, and then we'll flip it and add some color to the other side of all of this yarn. 10 minutes later, and let's check. I see some crashed reds. Actually touching it kind of helped. Let's flip over. Ooh, that's so pretty. And we do have some color penetration to the other side, which is great. That is from those bigger sections, those bigger guys that we put on here. So I think that that is awesome because that gives us some more continuity in the colorway, some more balance. And I think that it is really, really nice. But things have struck, which does impress me a lot. Now, my gloves are now wet, and I do want to dry them off before we use up the rest of the powder. I said that this was good for balance, but there might be some areas that do have less color coverage, overall. So I do want to try to concentrate some of the bigger chunks down near some of these ends, just a bit. But the other thing to notice is that one side I think has more red, one has more purple. There is a lack of evenness because we've got this like random mixture of color here. But I love, love, love that we're getting true multicolored speckles from this powder. It feels, except for the big chunks, it does feel kind of fine, but I think that it is in fact thicker than like acid dyes or something would be. And I've gotten decent coverage. We still have some left, so all right, we might be doing some more flips. So I could go bigger now, but I don't really want to. I want to let this sort of sink in and then look and see if there's areas that feel like they don't have a lot of color left. So I'm gonna let this sit, I think this time for 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna come and press in to let some of those bigger patches sort of expand and yeah, spread out a little bit so that way they could dissolve completely. After about 10 minutes, let's come in and tap. Since I went a little heavier with my speckles, I am seeing some color spread there as well, but I don't mind. I just want to make sure that any big pieces are tapped down and are able to dissolve and spread as needed. But yeah, I think that this is so, so pretty. And I think that up here you're seeing a lot more of the white. And there's definitely, actually the coverage is a little better than I thought. But I'm gonna wait 10 more minutes and then we'll sort of move things around to expose the inside and try to add a little more, I think. Whew. This yarn is feeling like cereal. It's really, really fun. Let's take a look. There's more, actually, the balance isn't that off. That's great. I mean, clearly this area I've just exposed doesn't have as many of the speckles, but there's color throughout, and that is important. Or that's what I like, because I prefer to get some balance in here. But Dana, you said to go wild, and this is beautiful. And I am drying my hands off. You can see that there's some staining. That's still that red number 3. It stains. Whew. But let's come in with this last bit and just add some color. There might be a few larger patches. Actually, I can't tell what skein that one is. I'm trying to pay some attention to these edges, but adding bits of powder. I like speckling, and I know here I'm going heavier, but I think that we've proved our concept. What I wonder now is how different these two skeins might feel. Goodness. Okay, there is a tad bit left. I think what I'm gonna do, I'll let things sit for 10 minutes and then I'll move it and to try to like find space for those that last little bit. All right, we definitely have more, because I went heavier on that side, more color. Let me check. Yeah, there's a bit of a pink wash all around, but I don't hate it. I think we're getting really, really good color penetration. The one spot where I always like to double check is within those ties, but I think it's pretty good. I do want to leave no dye behind, however. With this last bit, There are a few patches. It's not that I mind white behind per se. I just, you know, want to spread it out. And we certainly got a good spread. And once again, I'm going to let everything heat for 10 minutes. Then I'm going to turn off the heat and let it cool just as is right now. See, it's a good thing I filmed that intro at the beginning instead of, I considered just dyeing and going back and filming the intro after I'd already started, just so that way I could be in front of the camera. I was like, no, let's go and film it. I'm glad I did because I was wrong. This worked way better than I expected. Now, I set things up as much as I could to go for success. I used high acid, I used a superwash yarn, and high heat. By high acid, the water bath is a third vinegar. And as some water evaporates, that acid is still in there. So it's a very acidic condition. I didn't use that many tablets, and we got great results. Now, I mixed 4 colors together. You could definitely do this with just 1 color, and you could get speckles and then a little bit of a light wash of color. Sort of similar to the Leave No Dye Behind I got in the first ChemKnits Hanukkah bonus colorway video. So, I don't know, there's a lot that you could do. Now, would I choose to buy Easter egg dye tablets and use that for speckling? And the answer is probably not. But I have access to a lot of different dyes I can use for speckling. I think Kool-Aid powder gives sharper speckles and is a little easier to use because you're going to have more consistent sized flakes, but maybe that's not what you want. And so, yeah, you have a little bit of control with this, but I still think that the value in the Easter egg dye tablets is that they're solid. Like, you've seen me use them like crayons to draw on yarn, and then I create some fun rainbow colorways with like space dyeing and low immersion. That is where I think that the real value of these tablets lies. So, but you know, I also have acid dyes that I can use for speckling. So if you want to stay food-based, these go on pretty high clearance after Easter, so it is an option for playing around with speckling if you don't have Kool-Aid packets or similar, or if you just have a bunch of Easter egg dye tablets and you want to find another use for them. This is something else you can try. Now, I am obviously going to show you the washing of the yarn. We'll see how well the color is set, and we'll do some close-ups with the finished dry yarn. But one of my New Year's resolutions was to be in front of the camera a little more. I do a lot of talking and reflecting at times when there's not a lot of action. So when possible, I want to hop in front, even if I'm not in my fancy backdrop upstairs. I just want to hop in front of the camera and share sort of what I'm thinking about the whole process. Let me know what you think about the talking heads in the video description. I'm sure there are going to be days when I don't hop in front of the camera, but yeah, I think it's fun. I also want to give a big thank you, a big midpoint thank you to our sponsor Dana. And also, I want to thank all of you who have asked about this, suggested it, and apologized for me saying, I don't think it'll really work. Because it kind of seems like it worked. And so I was wrong. Wrong. And you know what? Like, that's why I finally was like, you know, I really got to give this a try because it could work. Or maybe we don't get speckles, but we could get something else really, really cool. And so I should listen to my own advice and just go for it and try things. And stop hoarding my Easter egg tablets like they're a hot commodity and afraid I'm gonna run out. I don't think I'm gonna run out anytime soon. I bought a lot in the last 2 years, and yeah, I don't think I need more tablets. So yeah, I'm not afraid to say when I'm wrong, and I think I am really, really wrong with what I thought at the beginning. And honestly, that is all the more fun, in my opinion. Here's the yarn. We've got a pretty wash of pink all over. And I think that happened because I saw some reds sort of crash out a little bit on top, but maybe I was able to go back in and give us this pink wash. But I think this is really beautiful. And if you hadn't watched me dye it with the Easter egg dye tablets, you wouldn't know that this was done that way. We are seeing some bleeding. And again, I think that this is from some of that red crashing out that I mentioned. So what I'm going to do is wash this multiple times and use some clear dish soap. I definitely seen some red particles in the pan from where some color had crashed out, and so I'm not surprised, and I'm expecting that it should rinse out fairly quickly. But if this is going to take longer than I think, I will absolutely come back and let you know, but we will do multiple rinses. This is just the next rinse, and I used warm water, and I'm no longer seeing any bleeding. So wahoo wahoo. I'm going to put the yarn through my spin dryer, hang it out to dry, and we'll come back and take a closer look. But there is zero question that we have created a speckled yarn here. We got speckles using crushed up Easter egg dye tablets. And there's a combination of some larger speckles, which are definitely still speckles, and then these fine pinpoint speckles that are some of my favorites to get. This worked! This worked! The two skeins definitely feel related, and they feel like they're the same colorway. But as we discussed, they're definitely not identical. Why did this work so well? I think it's a combination of a few different factors. One, I had really high acid superwash yarn, high heat, low water level. I set us up for success. But the other thing is that since the tablets were so small and more of a powder, they dissolved quickly. And since they dissolved quickly, they could adhere to the yarn faster. The slower the dyes dissolve, it sort of gives more time for them to spread out. And as the bigger tablets dissolve, they are changing the local pH, potentially, of a region. And by raising that pH, it allows the colors to spread even more. So, yeah, I mean, I think that if you started with less acid in here, things might spread a little more. The speckles might be a little softer, a little more watercolory. Maybe. But, I mean, it worked! Dana, thank you so much for sponsoring today's video. I am thrilled with how this yarn turned out. One more note on yarn dyed with food coloring. The color should be wash safe and can last and be vibrant for a long period of time. However, I don't recommend storing yarn dyed with food coloring in direct sunlight, especially when wet. So just keep that in mind as you proceed. But Easter egg dye tablets are so much fun to play with, and I highly recommend going the Monday after Easter and picking them up on clearance. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and I really hope you all enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. I release Dyepot Weeklies every Tuesday, and then Fridays are either another episode of Dyepot Weekly or some kind of bonus video, and you don't want to miss any of it. I love to try things for the very first time on camera, and as you've seen, I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. Is there an experiment that you are dying to see me try? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, everyone.